The distress call year 2157. Earth was peaceful. War was mostly a memory. Humans had turned their focus to exploring space and building a better world. Commander Olivia Martinez sat at her desk in the United Space Command headquarters. The building was tall and white, standing proud in what used to be Denver, Colorado. Her office window showed the Rocky Mountains in the distance. Olivia was checking reports when her screen flashed an urgent alert. A strange signal was coming from deep space. It wasn't from any human ship or station. "Commander, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Gary Webb, rushing into her office. His face looked worried. "We're getting a message. It's not from humans." Olivia stood up quickly. "Show me." They walked to the main control room where dozens of officers worked at screens. Everyone had stopped working. All eyes were on the large main screen. On it was a being unlike anything Olivia had ever seen. It had light blue skin that seemed to glow. Its body was thin and tall, with 4 long arms. Its face had large dark eyes that looked sad and scared. "People of Earth," the alien said, its voice sounding like gentle music. "I am Ambassador Zaleth of the Talixi Confederation. We have watched your world for many years. Now we need your help." The room was silent. This was humanity's first contact with aliens. "Our worlds are being attacked by a terrible enemy," the alien continued. "They call themselves the Voidborn. They destroy everything they touch. We have fought them for 20 years, but we are losing. Our ships are falling. Our planets are dying." Images appeared on the screen. Beautiful crystal cities burning. Strange ships with smooth, dark surfaces, firing weapons at planets. The destruction was complete. "We have studied your species," said Zaleth. "You humans fight with a special fire in your hearts. You never give up, even when you should. This is what we need. We ask for your warriors, your ships, your weapons. Please help us before it's too late." The message ended. The screen went dark. Admiral John Reeves was called in. He was old, with gray hair, and a face that showed years of experience. He had fought in Earth's last war 50 years ago. "What do we have, Admiral?" asked Olivia, as they met in the emergency meeting room. "What kind of fleet can we send?" Admiral Reeves looked troubled. "That's the problem, Commander. We don't have much of a fleet anymore." He showed her the list of available ships. It was short. Earth had turned most of its military ships into exploration or science vessels. The few remaining warships were old, used mostly for training. "The Talixi think we're some kind of warrior race," said Reeves. "They've seen our history, our old wars. They don't understand that we've changed." Olivia looked at the ship list again. 12 ships. "That's all we can send?" Reeves nodded. 12 ships. Most of them over 20 years old. Not exactly the mighty Armada they're hoping for. "Who would even crew these ships?" asked Olivia. "We don't have many experienced combat officers left. New graduates from the academy. Scientists. Engineers. A few old veterans like me who remember how to fight," said Reeves. "It's not ideal." Olivia walked to the window. The sun was setting behind the mountains. Somewhere out there, an alien civilization was dying. "They asked for our strength," she said quietly. "But all we can offer is our determination." Reeves stood beside her. "Sometimes determination is the greatest strength of all. The question is, do we tell them the truth about what we're sending, or do we let them keep believing we're sending our best?" Olivia thought for a moment. "We tell them the truth. We'll send what we have, but who knows? Maybe our weakest armada will surprise everyone." The next day, Earth gave its answer to the stars. "We will help." Image prompt for Leonardo AI, a futuristic command center with a large screen displaying an alien with luminescent blue skin and 4 arms. The alien has large dark eyes and looks distressed. In the foreground, a female military commander with dark hair and a male admiral with gray hair look up at the screen with concerned expressions. The room is filled with officers at control stations who have all stopped to stare at the alien. "Transmission," The lighting is blue-tinted from the screen, creating a dramatic atmosphere. In 8K, photorealistic style. The obsolete fleet, the USS Defiant, floated in Earth's orbit. Once, it had been Earth's pride. Now, at 30 years old, it was outdated. Its gray metal hull showed signs of age. Parts had been replaced many times, but it was still the best ship Earth could offer. Captain Samantha Collins walked through the ship's corridors. She was 42, with short brown hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had never fought in a real battle. Few humans had in the last 50 years. "Captain on the bridge," said a young officer as Samantha entered. The bridge was busy with activity. Screens showed the ship's systems being checked. Officers moved between stations, preparing for the mission. "Status report," Samantha said, sitting in the captain's chair. Lieutenant Alan Parker, the tactical officer, turned to her. He was only 25, fresh from the academy. "All weapon systems are online, Captain. They're old, but they work." "Navigation is ready," said Officer Maria Gonzalez. "The course to the Talixi wormhole is set." Samantha nodded. "And our crew?" "We're at full strength," said First Officer Ben Foster. "Though half the crew has never been in space before this week." Samantha sighed. This was what Earth had to offer: an old ship and an inexperienced crew. "Captain, you might want to see this," said Parker, pointing to a screen. Samantha stood and walked to the observation window. Outside, the rest of Earth's mighty fleet was gathering. 11 ships, all different sizes and types. Some were former warships now used for training. Others were science vessels with hastily added weapons. One had been a museum piece just 2 weeks ago. "They're calling us the Salvation Fleet," Parker said with a sad smile. "Doesn't seem right." Samantha watched the mismatched fleet. "No, it doesn't." "The Talixi are expecting warriors," said Foster, joining them at the window. "What do we tell them when they see what we're bringing?" "We tell them the truth," Samantha replied. "Earth isn't a warrior planet anymore. We've moved past that, but we still know how to fight when we need to." On the observation deck, engineers and scientists were making last-minute adjustments to the ship's systems. Chief Engineer Darius Washington led the work. He was tall and strong, with clever hands that could fix almost anything. "These engines weren't made for the kind of fighting we're heading into," he told his team. "So we're going to make them better." Darius had spent the last 2 weeks adding experimental technology to the Defiant, things that hadn't been approved for newer ships. "Yet if we can't win with power," he explained, "we'll win with surprise." In the science lab, Dr. Kate Summers and her team studied everything known about the Voidborn. It wasn't much. Dark ships that absorbed light, weapons that destroyed planets, a hatred for all other life. Their technology targets energy signatures from modern ships, Kate said, looking at scan results. "Our outdated reactors might actually help us. They're too inefficient to register properly on Voidborn scanners." On the day of departure, Admiral Reeves visited the Defiant. He would command the fleet from the USS Endeavour. "Are you ready, Captain Collins?" he asked. "As ready as we can be," she answered honestly. "The crew is nervous, but determined." Reeves nodded. "The Talixi ambassador will meet us at the wormhole. He still believes we're sending our best." "We are sending our best," Samantha said firmly, "just not in the way they expect." As the fleet prepared to leave Earth orbit, Samantha addressed her crew over the ship's speakers. "We may be Earth's weakest armada, but we carry humanity's greatest strengths, our ability to adapt, our creativity, and our refusal to accept defeat. The Talixi asked for warriors. Instead, they're getting problem solvers, and sometimes that's better." The fleet moved away from Earth, 12 ships flying in formation toward the stars. "Course set for the Talixi wormhole," said Gonzalez. "Engage," ordered Samantha, and the Defiant led the way. Image prompt for Leonardo AI, a mismatched fleet of human spacecraft in Earth orbit. In the foreground is the USS Defiant, an aging but still impressive carrier-class vessel with visible repair patches on its hull. Surrounding it are 11 different ships of varying designs, some converted science vessels, others older military craft. Through the observation window of the Defiant, Captain Samantha Collins, a determined woman with short brown hair, and Lieutenant Alan Parker, a young officer, look out at the assembled fleet. The Earth is visible in the background, a blue sphere, against the blackness of space. The lighting creates a dramatic contrast between Earth's blue glow and the metallic surfaces of the ships. Photorealistic, 8K resolution. The journey begins, the wormhole stretched before them like a tunnel of swirling blue light. It was huge, bigger than any human ship. The Talixi had created it just for them, a bridge across thousands of light years. "All ships report ready, Captain," said First Officer Ben Foster. Captain Samantha Collins nodded. She sat straight in her command chair on the Defiance bridge. "Any word from our Talixi guide?" "They're sending a small ship to meet us," replied Communications Officer Lisa Chen. "They'll lead us through." The bridge crew watched as a gleaming silver vessel approached. It was smooth and elegant with no sharp edges. It looked more like art than a warship. "That's Talixi design," said Dr. Kate Summers, who had come to the bridge for this moment. "Beautiful, and far more advanced than anything we have." The Talixi ship sent a message. Ambassador Zalith's musical voice filled the bridge. "Defenders of Earth, we welcome you. Follow our path through the passage. Our worlds await your strength." Samantha exchanged looks with her officers. They all knew the truth. They weren't the mighty warriors the Talixi expected. "Acknowledge their message," Samantha ordered. "Tell them we're ready." As the ships moved toward the wormhole, Chief Engineer Darius Washington worked deep in the Defiance engine room. Sweat covered his face as he connected wires and adjusted systems. "This better work," he muttered to his team, "or this will be a very short rescue mission." For the past week, Darius had been installing experimental technology that hadn't been approved for regular use. His latest creation was a shield modulator that could change energy patterns randomly. "If we can't overwhelm them with firepower," he explained to a young engineer, "we'll confuse them with capabilities they've never seen before." The ship shuddered as it entered the wormhole. Colors swirled around them, beautiful and strange. The crew fell silent, watching the impossible sight. In the science lab, Dr. Summers and her team analyzed the void-borne data from the Talixi. They had been studying it day and night since leaving Earth. "Look at this," she said, pointing to energy readings. "The void-borne targeting systems lock onto specific energy signatures. Our outdated reactors might actually be an advantage." Her assistant looked confused. "How?" "They're too inefficient," she explained with a smile. "They leak energy in patterns too chaotic for void-borne computers to track properly. Our weakness might become our strength." 3 days into their journey through the wormhole, Captain Collins called a meeting of all senior officers. They gathered in the Defiance conference room. "We'll reach Talixi space in 2 days," she said. "We need to be ready." Lieutenant Commander Eric Daniels, the fleet's strategy coordinator, displayed a map of Talixi territory. "The Voidborn have taken 4 outer planets. They're moving toward the Talixi homeworld." "What's our plan?" asked Lieutenant Alan Parker. "We can't match them ship for ship." "We won't try to," said Daniels. "We'll use what the Admiral calls asymmetric warfare. Never fight the enemy where they're strongest." Admiral Reeves joined the meeting via video from the USS Endeavour. His face looked serious. "The Talixi fight with direct approaches. That's why they're losing. We'll fight differently." Samantha nodded. "We'll use Earth tactics, surprise, deception, unconventional thinking." "Will that be enough?" asked Parker, voicing what everyone was thinking. "It will have to be," Samantha replied. As the meeting ended, Samantha stayed behind, looking at the star map. The Voidborn fleet was huge, hundreds of advanced warships against their 12 outdated vessels. When Foster returned to check on her, she was still there. "Worried, Captain?" he asked. "Concerned," she corrected, "but not without hope." Foster smiled. "The crew is calling this the impossible mission, but they're still working harder than I've ever seen." Samantha returned his smile. "Humans are at their best when the odds are against them." The next day, she addressed the entire crew over the intercom. "We may be Earth's weakest armada, but we carry humanity's greatest strengths, our adaptability, our creativity, and our refusal to accept defeat. The Telixi asked for warriors. Instead, they're getting problem solvers. In 2 days, we'll find out which is better." Image prompt for Leonardo AI. Inside the wormhole passage, the human fleet travels in formation. The USS Defiant leads with 11 other mismatched vessels following behind. The wormhole creates a tunnel of swirling blue and purple energy around them. In the foreground on the Defiant's bridge, Captain Samantha Collins stands looking ahead with determination while her crew works at their stations. Through the main view screen, a sleek silver Telixi escort ship can be seen gliding gracefully ahead of them. The lighting on the bridge is dramatic, primarily blue from the wormhole's glow mixed with the red and green of control panels. The scene captures the moment of journey between worlds with the contrast between the advanced alien technology and the older human ships. Photorealistic cinematic lighting, 8K resolution. First contact with the enemy. 3 weeks after arriving in Telixi space, the human fleet patrolled the outer edges of the Lyric system. The Telixi had welcomed them with hope, but also confusion. They had expected mighty warships and experienced soldiers. Instead, they got outdated vessels and crews who had never seen battle. Captain Samantha Collins stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant. The main screen showed a beautiful ringed planet, called Lyrix III. It was the next likely target for the Voidborn. "Any sign of enemy ships?" she asked. Lieutenant Alan Parker checked his screens. "Nothing yet, Captain, but our sensors only reach so far." The truth was, human scanning technology was far behind what the Telixi used. But the Telixi ships were busy defending their home planets. The humans were on their own out here. "Captain," Communications Officer Lisa Chen suddenly called out, "I'm picking up strange energy readings. 3 ships approaching from behind the moon." The bridge crew tensed. This was it. First contact with the enemy. "Battle stations," Samantha ordered calmly. "Alert the fleet." The Voidborn vessels came into view. They were unlike anything the humans had seen before. Black ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with incredible speed and grace. "They're scanning us," Chen reported. Her hands moved quickly over her controls. "I'm intercepting their transmissions. They're talking about us." "Can you translate?" asked First Officer Ben Foster. Chen nodded. "The Telixi gave us their language files. The Voidborn are calling us primitive constructs and debating whether we're worth attacking." Lieutenant Commander Eric Daniels, watching from his tactical station, smiled slightly. "They're underestimating us. That's good." Samantha moved to his side. "What are you thinking, Commander?" "A trap, Captain," he replied quietly. "Let's show them just how primitive we are." Samantha considered for a moment, then nodded. "All ships, this is Captain Collins. Prepare Operation Playing Dead." The human fleet split into 3 groups. The Defiant and 2 smaller ships, the Intrepid and the Valor, cut their main engines and drifted. Their lights dimmed. They looked damaged and helpless. The other 9 ships moved away, hiding behind the planet's rings. The Voidborn ships approached the seemingly crippled human vessels. Their black hulls gleamed in the light of the system's sun. "They think we're easy targets," Parker said, watching them come closer. "Let them think that," Samantha replied. She opened a channel to the engine room. "Chief Washington, how's our special package?" Chief Engineer Darius Washington stood beside a device he had built just for this moment. It wasn't pretty. Parts stuck out at odd angles. Wires were exposed. But it would work. "Ready, Captain," he replied. "Just say the word." Throw. Voidborn ships moved into position around the 3 drifting human vessels. They were close now, preparing to fire. "They're charging weapons," Parker reported. Samantha leaned forward in her chair. "Now, Darius, do it now." Washington pressed a button. The device hummed to life. A wave of electromagnetic energy burst from the Defiant. It was invisible, but powerful. The wave hit the Voidborn ships, Their lights flickered, their engines stuttered, they began to drift. "What happened?" asked Foster, surprised. Dr. Kate Summers, who had helped design the device, explained from her science station. "The pulse was harmless to our outdated systems. We still use physical switches and basic circuits in many places, but the Voidborn ships are fully computerized. The pulse overwhelmed them." The Voidborn vessels floated helplessly. Their advanced technology, their greatest strength, had become their weakness. "Signal the rest of the fleet," Samantha ordered. "Tell them to move in and secure those ships. We want to capture them intact if possible." As the human fleet surrounded the disabled Voidborn vessels, Lieutenant Commander Daniels stood beside the captain. "They never considered that our technological inferiority would be a tactical advantage," he said. "They've never fought an enemy like us before." "And that," Samantha replied, "is exactly why we're going to win this war." Word of the human victory spread quickly through Talixi space. For the first time in their long war against the Voidborn, there was hope. The primitive humans with their outdated ships and inexperienced crews had done what advanced Talixi fleets could not. They had won. Image prompt for Leonardo AI. 3 sleek black Voidborn ships with surfaces that seemed to absorb light surround. 3 damaged-looking human vessels in space. The USS Defiant is in the center, appearing to drift helplessly with dimmed lights. A wave of blue electromagnetic aner. The Battle of Proxima Talixi news of the human victory spread fast. The Voidborn were not used to losing. Their leaders were angry. They sent a large fleet to destroy the humans once and for all. Admiral John Reeves, on board the USS Endeavour, called all ship captains to a meeting. They gathered through video screens to plan their next move. "The Voidborn know about us now," Admiral Reeves said. His face looked serious. "They won't underestimate us again." Captain Samantha Collins of the Defiant nodded. "Our surprise advantage is gone." "Not all of it," said Captain Frank Miller of the USS Horizon. He was older than most captains, with gray in his beard. "They know we tricked them once. They don't know all our tricks." The admirals and captains studied a map showing Voidborn movements. A large enemy fleet was heading for Proxima Talixi, the outermost planet in the Talixi home system. "They're going to attack here," Admiral Reeves pointed, "with at least 30 ships, far more than we have." "Then we don't fight them directly," Samantha suggested. "We use the planet itself." Admiral Reeves smiled. "Exactly what I was thinking, Captain. Here's the plan." 2 days later, the human fleet waited near Proxima Talixi. The planet was large and rocky, with thick clouds covering its surface. Powerful storms raged below those clouds. "Voidborn fleet approaching," reported Lieutenant Alan Parker on the Defiance bridge. 35 ships in attack formation. Captain Collins nodded. "Just as we expected, all ships prepare to execute Battle Plan Sierra." The human fleet split into 2 groups. The Defiant and 3 other vessels stayed visible, appearing to guard the planet. The other 8 ships, led by Captain Miller on the Horizon, moved to the far side of Proxima Talixi and descended into its stormy atmosphere. "They can't see us through these clouds," Miller reported as his ships moved below the storm layer. "Washington's disruptors are ready." Chief Engineer Darius Washington had created devices that could affect Proxima Talixi's weather. The idea came from Earth's old weather control technology. On the Defiant, Captain Collins watched as the Voidborn fleet approached. The black ships moved with purpose, no longer confused by the humans. "They're coming straight for us," said First Officer Ben Foster. "Good," replied Samantha. "Keep retreating slowly. Make them follow us into position above the northern continent." The Defiant and its 3 companions moved backwards, as if afraid. The Voidborn fleet followed, eager to destroy them. "Enemy ships are in position," Parker announced. "All 35 are above the target zone." Samantha opened a channel to the Horizon. "Captain Miller now." Deep in the planet's atmosphere, Miller gave the order. "Activate disruptors." Washington's devices powered up on all 8 hidden ships. They sent energy waves into Proxima Talixi's storms. The storms grew stronger. Lightning flashed. Winds howled. The energy built and built until it shot upward in a massive electromagnetic storm. It burst through the clouds and into space, engulfing the void-born fleet. On the Defiant, Dr. Kate Summers watched her instruments with amazement. It's working. Their navigation systems are completely confused. They're firing at random coordinates. The view screen showed chaos. The void-born ships spun and turned. Some fired weapons, hitting their own vessels by mistake. Others tried to flee but crashed into each other. They're not damaged, Samantha observed, but they can't fight effectively. Sometimes, said Admiral Reeves from the Endeavour, the best weapon is confusion. The human fleet regrouped and began to target the largest void-born ships. One by one, they disabled the enemy vessels with precisely aimed shots at engines and weapon systems. 3 hours later, it was over. The void-born fleet retreated, leaving 7 destroyed ships and 8 captured ones behind. In the aftermath, Captain Miller's ship docked with the Defiant. He met Collins on the bridge. That was brilliant, he said. Using the planet against them. Samantha shook her head. It was human thinking. We've always used our environment when outmatched. As the human fleet secured their position around Proxima Telixi, a message arrived from the Telixi High Council. They wanted to meet with the human commanders. They're surprised, said Communications Officer Lisa Chen. They didn't expect us to win again. Neither did the Voidborn, replied Samantha, and that's our greatest advantage right now. Image prompt for Leonardo AI, an epic space battle above a stormy planet. The planet Proxima Telixi fills the bottom half of the image with swirling storm clouds and lightning visible on its surface. Above the planet, 35 sleek black void-born ships are caught in chaos as a massive electromagnetic storm erupts from the planet's atmosphere, surrounding them with blue-purple energy tendrils. Some void-born ships are firing weapons at random, hitting their own fleet. The USS Defiant and 3 other human ships hover at a safe distance, watching the confusion. In a small inset at the corner, Captain Frank Miller on the bridge of the USS Horizon is shown deep in the planet's atmosphere, ordering the activation of weather control devices. Captain Samantha Collins stands on the Defiant's bridge with a tactical display showing the battle. The lighting is dramatic, with the storm's energy illuminating the scene in electric blue flashes against the darkness of space. Photorealistic, cinematic quality, 8K resolution. The Telixi Revelation. The Telixi homeworld was beautiful. Tall crystal towers reached toward the sky. Flying vehicles moved between them in perfect patterns. Everything was ordered and elegant. Captain Samantha Collins and Admiral John Reeves stood in a great hall before the Telixi High Council. 5 tall, willowy aliens sat on curved chairs. Their blue skin glowed softly. All 4 of their long arms were folded in formal poses. Council Elder Xylith, the oldest and tallest Telixi, spoke first. Defenders of Earth, you have accomplished what our greatest warships could not. The translator device on Samantha's wrist changed the musical sounds into English. She nodded respectfully. We are glad to help, Admiral Reeves replied. Yet you claim to be your species' weakest warriors? Elder Xylith continued. The other council members made soft chiming sounds of agreement. Samantha and Reeves exchanged looks. The truth had to be told. We aren't warriors at all. Not really, Reeves said. I commanded construction vessels before this mission, Captain. Collins was an exploration officer. Most of our crew are scientists, engineers, and cadets. The council chamber filled with the musical sounds of Telixi talking to each other. They seemed confused. Finally, Ambassador Xyler, who had first contacted Earth, stepped forward. We have misunderstood your species. We studied your history and saw many wars. We believed your military strength was your greatest power. What do you see now? Asked Samantha. That humans turn disadvantages into strengths, Xyler replied. You make victories from impossible situations. Our intelligence showed humans fighting against overwhelming odds throughout your history and winning. We thought we needed your warriors, but what we truly needed was your way of thinking. Reeves nodded slowly. Humanity has a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When backed into a corner, we get creative. The Telixi seemed fascinated by this idea. They had always relied on their advanced technology and by-the-book tactics, When the Voidborn developed better technology, the Talixi had no answer. Elder Xylith stood. "We wish to learn this human creativity. Will you teach us?" "Of course," Samantha agreed. "But first we need to understand the Voidborn better. Our victories have been small. To win the war, we need more information." The council agreed. They shared everything they knew about the Voidborn. Dr. Kate Summers and her science team joined the meeting to ask questions. "Where do they come from?" Dr. Summers asked. "The void between galaxies," explained a Talixi scientist named Eleanor. "They hate all life that uses light and energy. They believe the universe should be dark and empty." "How do they communicate?" asked Lieutenant Nicole Bradley, the fleet's communication specialist. "They share a connected mind," said Eleanor. "Each ship is part of one consciousness. That's why they coordinate so perfectly." This information excited the humans. A connected mind had advantages but also weaknesses. After the meeting, Samantha, Reeves, and their officers gathered on the Defiant to discuss what they had learned. "A hive mind," said Lieutenant Commander Eric Daniels. "That explains a lot. It also gives us a new approach," added Samantha. "If all Voidborn ships share one consciousness, disrupting that connection could be powerful." Chief Engineer Darius Washington rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Like a computer network. If we could introduce something that confuses or overwhelms it." The planning continued into the night. The humans were energized by the new information and full of ideas. Meanwhile, in another meeting room, Talixi military leaders watched recordings of the human battles against the Voidborn. They studied how the outdated human ships had used simple tricks to defeat advanced technology. "They think differently than we do," observed Talixi Fleet Commander Valari. "When we lose an advantage, we try to recover it. When humans lose an advantage, they find a completely new approach." Ambassador Xylar nodded. "That is why we needed them. Not for their weapons or ships, but for their minds." That night, as Samantha looked out from her temporary quarters at the Crystal City, she felt both pride and concern. The humans had won 2 battles, but the Voidborn would adapt. They would need an even more creative solution for the next confrontation. Her communication device chimed. It was the final strategy. The main conference room of the USS Defiant was crowded. Human officers sat next to Talixi leaders around a large table. In the center, a hologram showed the approaching Voidborn fleet, over 100 black ships moving toward the Talixi homeworld. "We have 3 days before they arrive," said Admiral John Reeves. His face looked tired but determined. "Our previous tactics won't work this time." "They've adapted." Captain Samantha Collins nodded. "The electromagnetic pulse won't affect them again. They've modified their shields. And they won't follow us into planetary storms," added Captain Frank Miller of the Horizon. "They've learned that lesson too." The room fell quiet. The situation seemed hopeless. 12 human ships and 30 Talixi vessels against over 100 Voidborn warships. "We can't outgun them," Miller stated plainly. "And they won't fall for the same tricks twice." Dr. Kate Summers, who had been studying Voidborn communication patterns, spoke up. "I think I found something important. The Voidborn function as a collective consciousness. Their ships are extensions of a unified mind." Washington snapped his fingers. "Like a networked system. If we could introduce a virus—" "Not a computer virus," Summers corrected. "A cognitive one. Their shared consciousness makes them efficient but unable to process certain types of information." Collins leaned forward. "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" "We transmit unsolvable problems directly into their communication network," Summers explained. "Their mind will be caught trying to solve these problems." Lieutenant Nicole Bradley, the fleet's communication specialist, understood immediately. "You mean like paradoxes? Contradictions that can't be resolved?" "Exactly," said Summers. "Humans have debated philosophical paradoxes for thousands of years. We're comfortable with questions that have no clear answers, but the Voidborn mind is built for efficiency and perfect logic." The Talixi leaders looked confused. Ambassador Zyler asked, "What is a paradox?" Bradley thought for a moment. It's like asking, can an all-powerful being create a rock so heavy that even they cannot lift it? If they can't lift it, they're not all-powerful. If they can lift it, then they couldn't create a rock they couldn't lift, so they're not all-powerful. The Tilixi looked troubled by this example. Their minds, like the Voidborn, preferred clear, logical answers. Humans live with these contradictions all the time, Reeves explained. We accept that some questions don't have perfect answers. Over the next 2 days, Bradley worked with Tilixi linguists to translate classic human paradoxes into Voidborn language patterns. The liar's paradox, the ship of Theseus, the omnipotence paradox, concepts that humans had debated for thousands of years. Chief Engineer Darius Washington and his team built a powerful transmitter that could send these paradoxes directly into the Voidborn communication frequency. Will this really work? Captain Miller asked during the final briefing. It's our best chance, replied Collins. The Voidborn have never encountered anything like this before. As the Voidborn fleet approached, the human and Tilixi ships formed a defensive line around the homeworld. The black ships came closer, moving in perfect formation, their weapon systems charged, ready to destroy everything in their path. They're in range, reported Lieutenant Alan Parker from his tactical station. Samantha nodded to Bradley. Send the transmission. Bradley pressed the command on her console. The transmitter activated, sending a stream of paradoxes directly into the Voidborn communication network. This statement is false. If God is all-powerful, can he create a stone so heavy that he cannot lift it? I am lying right now. Can an omniscient being forget something? At first, nothing happened. The Voidborn fleet continued its approach. It's not working, said First Officer Ben Foster, his voice tense. Wait, Bradley urged. Give it time. Suddenly, the lead Voidborn ship slowed, then another and another. Their perfect formation began to break. Some ships turned in random directions. Others simply stopped moving. Their collective mind is trying to solve the unsolvable, Summers explained, watching her instruments. They can't process contradictions that have no logical answer. More and more Voidborn ships showed signs of confusion. Some fired weapons at empty space. Others began to drift aimlessly. It's working, Parker exclaimed. Their attack formation is completely broken. On the main screen, the Voidborn fleet had transformed from a fearsome attack force into a scattered collection of confused vessels. Samantha opened a channel to all ships. All vessels, move in and disable the Voidborn ships while they're disoriented. Target engines and weapons only. The human and Tilixi fleet advanced, picking off the confused enemy vessels one by one. The battle had begun, and for the first time, it looked like it might actually end in victory. Image prompt for Leonardo AI. A dramatic space battle scene showing the confrontation between a defensive line of human and Tilixi ships facing an approaching armada of black Voidborn vessels. In the foreground, Lieutenant Nicole Bradley is at her communications console on the USS Defiance bridge, activating the Paradox transmitter, a device with pulsing blue energy. Captain Samantha Collins stands behind her with a determined expression. The main view screen shows Voidborn ships beginning to break formation and move erratically as the paradoxes affect their collective consciousness. Some Voidborn ships are firing randomly into space, others drifting out of formation. The Tilixi homeworld is visible in the background, a beautiful planet with crystal cities visible on its surface. The lighting creates dramatic contrast between the sleek black Voidborn ships, the mixed human fleet, and the glowing blue transmission waves visibly emanating from the human flagship. Photorealistic cinematic quality, 8K resolution. Victory through understanding. The battle lasted 3 days. The human ships and their Tilixi allies moved through the confused Voidborn fleet, disabling ship after ship. Some Voidborn vessels recovered, briefly from the paradox effect, only to be hit with new, more complex contradictions from Lieutenant Bradley's team. This one is called the Sorites paradox, Bradley explained to Captain Collins as they watched another enemy ship power down. If you remove 1 grain of sand from a heap, it's still a heap. Keep removing grains one by one. When does it stop being a heap? Their mind can't handle that kind of vague boundary. On the bridge of the Defiant, Admiral Reeves and the Telixi, Ambassador Zyler watched the battle unfold on the main screen. "You defeated them without destruction," Zylar said with wonder in his voice. "How did you know this would work?" Captain Collins, who had just returned from checking on her crew, smiled. "We didn't know for certain, but throughout human history, our philosophers have grappled with paradoxes and contradictions. We've learned to live with unanswerable questions." "The Rear Voidborn didn't have that ability," added Dr. Summers from her science station. "Their mind operates on pure logic and efficiency. Paradoxes are like sand in a complex machine." By the end of the third day, the Voidborn fleet was scattered and helpless. Over 80 ships had been captured intact. The rest had retreated back to deep space, their collective mind struggling to process the flood of contradictions. The crews of the human fleet were exhausted but victorious. They had accomplished what seemed impossible, defeating a vastly superior enemy without superior weapons or technology. 1 week later, Captain Collins received a transmission from Earth. The United Space Command had prepared to send additional forces, newer ships with advanced weapons, but they were no longer needed. "Tell them to stand down," Admiral Reeves instructed Communications Officer Lisa Chen. Earth's weakest armada turned out to be exactly what was needed. A great celebration was held on the Telixi homeworld. The crystal towers were lit with dancing lights of all colors. Telixi citizens floated paper lanterns into the night sky to honor the human Telixi victory. In the Grand Plaza, the Telixi High Council unveiled a monument, a holographic display showing the 12 mismatched vessels of the human fleet. The inscription, translated into English, read simply, "Strength is not measured by weapons, but by the minds that wield them." Council Elder Xylith addressed the gathered crowds. "We asked for warriors to fight our war. Instead, we received teachers who showed us a new way to think. The humans' greatest weapon was not their technology, but their unique way of seeing problems." After the ceremony, the human commanders gathered on the observation deck of the Defiant. Through the large windows, they could see the beautiful Telixi, city below and the stars above. "What happens to the Voidborn now?" asked Lieutenant Alan Parker. "The Telixi scientists think their collective consciousness will eventually recover," replied Dr. Summers. "But they'll never be the same. We've introduced them to contradiction and paradox. They'll have to evolve to handle that." "Maybe they'll learn something from it," suggested Chief Engineer Darius Washington. "Maybe they'll become better for it." Captain Collins looked out at the stars. "That's the human way, isn't it? We don't just defeat our enemies. We change them. We make them think differently." Admiral Reeves joined her by the window. "The Telixi have asked if some of our crew would stay behind as teachers and advisors." "I think many will volunteer," Collins replied. "We came here as warriors, but found a better purpose as bridges between different ways of thinking." As the human fleet prepared for their journey home, Captain Collins gathered her crew on the Defiant's Obser